All right, so we've done this before, but I'm just going to go over it real quick again. When we export out of Max and what we get into ZBrush, I've taken what we did last week, and they're all just one piece at a time. So if we look at them, they're all different pieces. If I look at this one, I should probably name this bricks, but it's okay because we're going to separate it when we get there, but that's fine. I'm going to grab everything, and then I'm going to go to export and export selected because I only want to export what I have selected. Then I'm going to go over to ZBrush, and inside of ZBrush, I want to go new and turn off that switch. Come over to this cylinder, draw it out, Control N for new, draw it out, push T, make sure you always push T so you can circle around it. Change this to a poly mesh 3D. And then you're going to come over to the plugins tools. You're going to come over to FBX import export, and you're going to go to import, and you're going to import, and you're going to go find that file. You're going to go trim. You're going to open it up. It's going to open it up. Now, what you might see, which you've not maybe seen before, I'll turn off this solo here, is the textures actually imported with it, which is cool. And it's something we haven't really used in this class. It's a cool trick, but we really don't want them on. So what we're going to have to do is go and turn them off. So if we come down here to texture, we'll see that it says on. The other thing first, let's do this in the right order because I'm pretty sure this is the bottom one. Yeah, and we want this on the bottom, so I'm going to drag it to the bottom, and I'm pretty sure this is the top one. I'm going to rename this real quick. Trim. A lot of stuff we're going to do in here. I'm going to speed through and then let you do it on your own. So we really don't want any textures on these at all right now. We just did that for placement and what we were thinking. So we're going to come to turn texture on, and I'm going to push the arrow down, which goes to the next one down. If you didn't know that, then I'll texture off. Then I'll turn off the texture, and then I'll turn off the texture, and then I'll turn off the texture. Then I'll go back up to the top, and we'll start working. What I'm going to do is, because this is still separate pieces, we can see them there, but they're all one object, I really want to break them apart. Now, you know, I've seen different ways of doing this, and you can, first thing we'll do is we'll auto group real quick. So auto group, which is also found, if you don't have the shortcut there, is also found over here into polygroups, and you can just say auto group. Allows us to, control shift and hide all but one. Now, it's going to be a weird hide right now because I don't have any polygons since everything is based off of vertices. When I click, it depends on which vertice it's. See how it's on that vertice down there, even though I'm all the way up here? If I click shift control and do it, it's going to be that one. If I go over here, it's going to be that one. So just see where the hot spot is. Once I have these divided, they'll split up much easier. So there's a couple things we could do. We could divide them up a little bit and then separate them, or we could separate them and then divide them up. And probably the smartest way to do it is just to take off your smooth and divide it, let's say, 3 times. If I do Shift F again, turn it off and turn it back on, you can see that it's divided it. Okay, now I've got this divided. I'm going to go ahead and delete the lower res, so I've got this actually written up as it's divided. And then I'm going to come over to this group splits, which is a shortcut I have, but it's also, if you don't have the shortcut, just right here under split, you'll see group splits, and it's going to split all of my pieces real quick for me, because what I want to do is get these separated out so I can get them to Dynamesh. I like working in Dynamesh. It doesn't mess up the unwrap, or it doesn't mess up the density of the mesh. So for me, I just like it better. And since we aren't going to really use this for anything else but to get a high-res version from it, it just depends on what you like to work in. When you divide, it's just like a turbo smooth or something. That means look how much more divisions are here than there are here. That's just by default, that's going to happen because it's got smaller polygons and it's just dividing every polygon. So I want to take this and make a folder for it. So they all stay in a nice little place. I'm going to make a couple folders. I'm going to say new folder. I'm going to say bricks. Like that. And then I'm going to make another folder with the stuff below it and say other stuff for now. And then I'm just going to make sure all the other stuff is in one place. This will just give me an ability to hide them easily by closing it up, getting them out of the way, and then hiding them. Because now I'm going to have all these bricks as separate pieces, so I want to make sure I have these out that way. So I've selected this again. And then I want to make sure I shouldn't have any geometry. Yeah, okay. So when I push auto groups, or group split, I'm sorry. If I push group splits, it's going to come up with this. Do you sure you want to do this? It's not undoable. It's kind of not undoable, but if you know that it's something you want to do, it's not a bad place to do a real quick save. So I like to save at points when I know things could go wrong. So I'm going to call this trim start and go. Okay. And then I'm going to go up here and say group splits. And I'm going to say okay. So group splits. So now I've got these all separated out, and since I put them into a folder, they stayed in the folder for me. Now what I can do is I can go solo right here and go to the top one and see if that's where I want the top one. That's fine. And I'll turn on solo, and that way even when I want to see them all at once, I can see them. Now I'm at the top one, and it's time to start sculpting. What am I going to do? I'm going to come down and change to a Dynamesh again, because I like the way Dynamesh works. And since I'm not super worried about poly counts, and even if I was, let's see how big I make it. If I make it, let's say I make it 1,000 without anything else, and I just say Dynamesh, and we do it. One thing it's going to do is add back on. That's fine. We don't care about that. We can get rid of it later if we need to. And then we can see. And the real question we really want to have is, how does it sculpt, right? If I turn off the mesh real quick, or the line fill and all that, and I can see, that's just with my mouse, I can see that I can get what I want pretty easy. The other thing I'm going to do with this that maybe you haven't seen before is I've come up with a new thing that I kind of like to do, and it doesn't always work for everything, but it works pretty good for what we're doing here. I'm also going to get rid of this. I'm going to turn on polish. So anytime and then I'm going to turn blur off because I want these sharp. So anytime we do control and select off the object, if nothing is selected, it will re-dynamesh it, just re-topologize it. So let's take a look at this topology. I'll go back in here, and you can see that's the topology. It's all quads. It's good to go. And then if I do this again, it should retopologize it. It usually needs to have some work done. There you go. So once you start making changes and stuff, and the reason that polish on is because what polish does is it flattens it out even more. And you can turn this up if you want. If you want to go, oh, you know what? Let's go to 1200. If you look at the numbers up there, it's still only 66K. 1200. I know it's only a brick, but that's fine. And then turn it on, and then we get some more. Now with polish on, it flattens it out too. So it's up to you. You can turn it on. You can just turn it on every once in a while. You know, I haven't really come with a perfect solution for it, and I'm just playing with it now. So it's kind of like what I like to do. When I see this stuff, then I try and do this again and see if I can smooth it out and then do it again. So you see all this? Don't worry about that. If I was worried about super sharp edges, then that would be something to worry about. But since we know these are going to be stones, we can just come through here super fast and then do this once in a while to check them, and then come in here super fast. One of the things that we need to do as artists, and beginning artists do, is they focus on being perfect every stroke. And if you don't have to worry about that in the beginning anyway, to get the basic forms laid out, and since these are just going to be one of many bricks, then that works fine. Also, one of the other things that we talked about before is using orb brushes. Right now I'm just using the standard trim adaptive. So yeah, I'm going to sculpt this out, and after I do all the bricks in this section, I'll start it up again, fast forward. Okay, I wanted to show you something real quick. So one thing you may notice me doing is, since I have my brush set to dynamic off, that means when I zoom in, I get a smaller, finer brush, and I can get these kind of really controlled cracks. But then I can pull back out, and since the brush stays the same size, it gets me these larger areas. So just keep that in mind. That's the reason that I kind of like the non-dynamic in most cases. There are times that I want the dynamic, but for me, in my way of sculpting, it always seems to be better to go in this way. So anyway, back to it.
Okay, so I realized something as I was working on this, that I screwed something up. But we can fix it. It's not a big deal. If we had done the wraparound brush stuff, it probably would have been better. But this is an easy fix, and it may be the way I do it anyway. This one needs to be a tile of this one, and this one needs to be a tile of this one, right? So I need to come back in and fix that. What I'm going to do is take a look at this one. I'm going to duplicate it, Control-Shift-D. So I duplicated it. I'm going to take a look at this one, Alt and select it, Control-Shift-D to duplicate it. And then I'm going to grab this one. And what I'm going to do is close these off real quick. And I'm going to put on, yeah, that's fine. I'm going to do another thing. I'm going to make these transparent so I can see when I move stuff around. I'm going to grab this one, and I'm just going to get it not in the same place as the other one so you can see that there's a duplicate right there. I'm going to grab this one and do the same thing. Just move it over here somewhere. It doesn't need to be right at this point. Then I'm going to grab this one, and I'm going to go to Geometry. And inside Geometry, there's an option called Position. And inside Position, it tells me the position on the X coordinates, which is the right left, of these objects. So if I say 7, 6, 7, 4, 5, but I put that on this one, which is not set to that, 0.76745, and I say enter, now it's lined up perfectly. I can come over to this one and say 77106, and it's a negative, so it's this one, and 106. Let's see if I did that right. Yep. So now I've got them lined up the way they're supposed to be. This one and the other side is duplicated. So I just need to get rid of this clean one. So if I move them, make sure the other one's sitting right there. It is. I can just go ahead and go up to Subtool and delete the original one. That's out of here. Come to this one. Make sure I grab the box one, not the sculpted one. There we go. And move this up just to get it out of the way and make sure I got the right one, delete it, and say okay. Now I can go back to sculpting, and that's what I'll do. Okay, so now I've got these set up. The other thing we're going to do is put some cracks and stuff on them, but I may come back and just do that all at once so I don't have to, so I can keep my rhythm going. You know, these are more broken up than you may want them, or less broken up than you may want them. That's totally fine. We want to make them look like they're wall sets. So they all tile now, and it should be good to go.